Imhotep.
Imhotep.
Oh, well, here we are. And I will say why hello and welcome to issue 755 of Geek in the City Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Aron Duran.
I am one of your other hosts, Spinarita.
I am your other host, Cable Hashitani.
And I'm one of your other hosts, Anastasia Elfman.
All the others.
Yay!
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Yay!
It's a Tuesday.
I know, right?
I'm
It's my.
alive.
Let's see. So yeah, Bean's barely alive. Like she recovered.
Mhm.
I am still recovery, but not as much. And it's my Monday, so
Mm-hmm. I've the kids ran me ragged today, so there's that.
as they do.
Watching as they do, but they're still fun kids, so
How
That's
about you,
true.
It's a good thing.
Anastasia?
Good. I'm shooting like a cameo in a horror movie tomorrow. So of course like the whole like leading up to it is me doing the costume and figuring out the makeup and everything like that and learning my lines, and I'm the first kill for the movie, so it's like I've got to make it good, you know? Sets the standard for the film.
It does. Like the first
Exciting.
kill of any horror movie definitely sets a certain tone of how the rest of the kills are going to go.
Right? I feel so
Oh, you're the
honored.
first kill? Awesome.
Yeah.
I am. And I'm
Like-
like, am I gonna make it into the sequel? Who knows?
Like the Scream would not quite be what it was were it not for the kill of Drew Barrymore in the very beginning.
Oh man,
Yes.
what a great fucking with the audience too.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
They're like, let's make her the biggest head on the poster.
And then
And
we kill her in 10 minutes.
It just
Yeah.
occurred to me that that's like somewhat of an homage to When a Stranger Calls.
Or Psycho.
or Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
I
very
still haven't-
Psycho-esque.
Mhm.
You haven't seen Psycho?
Wait,
And
no.
the show's off and running.
No, actually, I have seen Psycho. I just always forget that I've seen it because my mind conflates it with Norman Bates. What's that one called?
Psycho.
American Psycho.
Oh, that's
totally,
I did it again.
Totally different.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I can see
Norman
that
Bates,
Norman Bates,
Psycho.
Patrick
But-
Bateman. I could see
Bateman.
Yeah. So I've seen American Psycho. I have not seen Psycho, but I know a lot about it.
Yes. I feel like everybody in the culture like knows about Psycho. We gotta get you to watch Psycho.
I know.
You gotta
It's
watch
funny.
more like Hitchcock films, I guess, because like Psycho is like probably number 2 of like when people watch Hitchcock. Though my favorite is his personal favorite, Shadow of a Doubt with Joseph Cotton. So good. I don't know if you guys have seen, but that was
That one I haven't seen.
Hitchcock's favorite film that he directed, and it's
Okay.
my favorite as well.
My favorite is The Birds, and
Oof.
I remember I've always been fond of Alfred Hitchcock, like from childhood because of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, but I haven't actually seen that many of his movies. And I know what you're going to say, Aaron, and that was actually debunked.
No, I was smiling.
That he tortured Tippi Hedren?
No, I was smiling that you know him through Alfred Hitchcock's Presents. I loved that show.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it was on TV all the time. Anyway,
mine's probably Rear Window. I love Rear Window.
So good. I watched that for New Year's Eve. I made my family watch it.
Nice.
To bring in the new year.
I think my introduction to Alfred Hitchcock was actually the Three Investigators series of children's novels.
What?
That was So there was a series of children's novels akin to the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, where it was the Three Investigators, and they were like neighborhood kids that somehow managed to con their way in to meet Alfred Hitchcock, their favorite director, and he kind of would help them with mysteries or like send mysteries their way that they would then solve.
That's
Huh.
so unexpectedly wholesome.
It was. And then, started getting into Psycho and Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It's like, oh, wait a minute. What did I read again when I was in second grade? So,
That is such a trip. Huh.
Well,
and I saw,
surprisingly, we're not here for a Hitchcock film.
I
surprisingly,
know.
Should we tell everybody what we're actually here for?
We
Yes,
are. We
let's
are
let's
here
jump
for the
right in. Oh my God.
1999 masterpiece, The Mummy.
mm-hmm.
Pew pew pew. We should have
Um,
made
oh
like
my
sound
God.
effects in here.
Yeah, we
I
we
really
need
wanted
we
to
need those.
I
Hold on,
really
let's see if
wanted
I
to
can
find a way to
find
play.
there we go.
Oh,
Oh, there it is.
Wow.
how did you
Thanks,
get all
Zoom.
that?
That's like high
I think
budget.
it
I
just comes with
know.
Zoom, doesn't it?
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm lucky I'm here and you guys can hear me.
Here, I'll celebrate with a drink serving. Boo boop 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 boo.
Oh,
There we go.
nice.
We'll do it.
Nice.
Dang it, there was a
Little
Guinness in my fridge and I was gonna grab it before the
little
show.
Christmas gonk bonk bonk bonk.
I've
There you
got
go.
an original pantry, and I think our local pantry is actually closing, so this is going to be like a relic now.
Oh, no.
Where is he going?
Where did he go? Oh no.
I don't
Okay,
know.
yeah, make sure to save that. No more dishwasher for your original pantry mug so
So,
that you can
so,
save that
oh yeah.
Right?
design
See,
forever.
I've got a few. I've got a few because I like it. Okay, there's something about like a cafe mug, and I love the feeling of like how heavy it is. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. And so like I literally took Rick on a secret date. We dropped off our daughter at school and she goes to like high school in downtown LA. And then I surprised him and we went on like a little morning breakfast date and I grabbed I bought a bunch of these mugs so I could bring them home because I love like I don't know, do you guys have any favorites? Like I love a weighted heavy mug. I don't
We
There's no explanation, but I love it.
I adore cafe mugs, like
Right?
the hef, or as I
Yeah.
call them, like fighting mugs.
Oh my God. Yes. Somebody would die if I like hit them with
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
the thing that cracks me up
Yeah.
is like I feel like from a like a ceramicist perspective, they're not well-made mugs, but you still love them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This
I
one that they sell that you can buy feels very well made, and I have put it through the dishwasher numerous times, and it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. But now I've got to like treat it with like white glove hands, and go out there and get like 16 more so I can do it with the dinner party.
Yep.
Oh man, that's fantastic. Yeah.
I feel that way about the fake mason jar glasses that you used to get from Joe's Crab Shack, which, as far as
Oh,
I can tell, doesn't exist anymore. And so
Mm.
it used to be that like if you ordered a particular cocktail, you would get to keep the mason jar glass that they serve it in. And so I had a set of four that I lovingly kept, and those were like my drinkware. And I love them so much that I once dropped one in my driveway and was devastated. And
oh,
my husband found one on eBay and ordered it as a replacement. So I still
oh
have the
my,
four.
that's love. Wow.
They do still exist. The only West Coast one is California,
Road
which
trip.
has which has
Yeah.
four. There's
Come
Oh,
four.
excellent.
hang out.
Excellent. And we'll all get a bucket of crab and ridiculous cocktails in fake mason jars.
Nice.
Delightful.
Um,
Well, let's get
yeah,
going on this movie, guys. Who
I
wants
know.
to
Let's.
start?
We're never gonna get to the movie. That's gonna be the
I
fun
mean,
episode, is that we
The
never
mug
talk
episode.
yeah. I mean, I feel like we don't need to recap the movie. Like everyone, I feel like knows this movie.
And if they don't, they need to leave this podcast right now and
Yeah.
go watch it. That is homework immediately. Moving
I,
forward.
I think for me,
Yes.
the thing with the Mummy is that kind of like you, Anastasia, like I grew up loving the Universal monsters. I adored
Yes.
them. My mom
Yes.
used to let me stay home sick from school because, like, I used to wake up stupid early in the morning, like 5:30, and I'd either read or I would sneak out to the living room and turn on the TV like really quiet. And we had a UHF station that would just play shit. And sometimes I'd wake up and it was a black and white Universal monster movie, and my mom woke up. She's like, "Mia, you gotta get ready for school." I'm like, "All right, let me just watch this really quick." But like on a commercial break, the announcer for KAME Channel 21 would be like, "You're enjoying whatever, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde." But, oh shit, I didn't even mean to do it that way. No, that's different. And they're like, 8 more hours to go in KAME's classic horror marathon. And my mom would be like, do you want to stay home today? It's like, yeah. And we would have
Awesome.
like junk food. So like I grew up with that, and when I heard they were making The Mummy, like I saw the trailer and I'm like, eh. Like I remember thinking like this looks more like Indiana Jones, and I love Indiana Jones, but The Mummy's supposed to be scary and like it's the Universal monsters. It should be more spooky and atmospheric, but I still went and I was like, holy shit, this movie is so much fun,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think almost everybody thought that way. I know it was a way, way bigger hit than the studio thought it would be. Like they were, and we can get into this too, and you guys chime in and stuff, whatnot. And it's actually one of like the questions and stuff. The one where like, because Brendan Fraser he was getting big because this is after George of the Jungle, which was a big thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
That made a ton of money, and that's how like Stephen Summers he saw that he's like, that's our guy. So he was like a big rising star. I don't think Rachel Weisz was that well known yet. If you anyone can kind of correct me.
Well, it was kind of like they wanted an American for Evie's part. And so they
Okay.
weren't really thinking of her, she's like English. And
Yeah.
so she ended up doing a lot of auditions. And it was weird because they ended up not offering it to anybody else and then just giving it to her after like 5 or 6 auditions, which
Oh
I think
wow.
is
Okay.
like, yeah, which is a lot of auditions. Like as an
That's
actor, I'm
so
like,
many.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
look, I'd
even do
be
them.
someone would be on fire if I had to audition for something 5 times and didn't get it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, insane, right? Yeah, like total curse set upon them and their family forever
Hmm.
Yeah.
now.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but she was like a bit support actor up until The Mummy for the most part. She doesn't have a lot of big starring roles.
I
A
mean,
lot of TV work.
I feel like she was doing some starring stuff, but not for like Americans,
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
a difference between, especially back in that time, because we didn't have like Amazon Prime or anything like that to watch, these like UK like films and things like that. So readily available,
BBC
let's say.
America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But this was also like this was both of their big this was their big Hollywood debut for like I mean even though Fraser had done some stuff, this was leading man. George of the Jungle, he was the leading man, but it's wacky. It was made for kids.
George of the Jungle does not predate. Oh no, yeah, there it
Yeah,
is. I
yeah, it
found it.
does.
But yeah, but
97.
1997.
I
Yeah.
take it back. But he
Um,
had also done Blast from the Past that also came out in '99.
but
And
I think
like,
the
He
Mummy was first.
did he do like Encino Man as well, like beforehand, or was that after
Yeah.
this, right?
No, he was I mean he was known, but not
he
like
has a pretty long
leading.
resume before The
Yeah.
Mummy, and
Yeah.
some of them are big-ish. Like a lot of these I don't recognize at all, but Airheads and In the Army Now,
Mm-hmm.
those seem like they would have been pretty not maybe not like blockbuster hits, but pretty popular in their time.
He helped many a Pauly Shore movie. That's in the
I
army now too.
mean, you can
Yeah.
only help a Pauly Shore movie.
Yeah. But so anyway, like this was they both considered this was their big
Denise.
Thank you. Thank you.
this was their big Hollywood tentpole movie. And they both mentioned this, and they mentioned it even recently. They're like, we had no fucking idea what this movie was about. The crew didn't get it. Like one scene, we're setting up for like a long makeup effect that looks horrifying, and then the next minute it's a jokey scene, and then it's a we were like, and they both were like, our careers are done. This movie is so off the charts. It has no direction. We're
Mhm.
done. And they were, and Rachel Weisz apparently was the one who was like, well, then fuck it, Brendan. Let's just, whatever he asks for, let's just do more as much as we can. If we're going to go out, we're going to go out in flames, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, I think a lot of that stemmed with people not understanding how like motion capture works. And so they're doing these big performances and not realizing that they're going to be turned into these like awesome effects, because
Mm-hmm.
like we've got trackers on like Arnold, and we've got like Brendan fighting imaginary mummies. Like if you do
Right.
your research, you know that he learned the choreography by heart. And so like what was it, ILM could like put in these mummies in the scene. Like one of the last scenes is like he's fighting for Evie's like life, and he's fighting all of these mummies, and there's nobody there. So he's just doing all of
Mhm.
these pantomiming actions, and they're so believable, and they were able to create these effects around him like seamlessly.
Well, I didn't even know he didn't even have like sticks. Like sometimes they'll put a stick for an eye line or something.
Yeah, they didn't have in that particular scene. I mean, like I don't know about everything because it was like highly documented, but also not. I found like I was left with a lot of questions that I want to find these like artists and ask them these like specific questions because they weren't answered for me. Um
Right.
because I feel like a lot of like, okay, so like I have the physical release, and there's a lot of fun behind the scenes um like options on there, but they only talk about the like VFX. They don't talk about the practical effects, and I feel like I'm very like pro practical effects and how they can be married in with like VFX. And it's easy for me
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
pick that. But so it's like there's moments where it seems like maybe there's an animatronic mummy hand, but they don't really talk about it. There's like all of these like questions unanswered for me as a practical effects junkie. I don't know if you guys came across that with your like deep dive, but I was going very deep.
For which
I
part? Sorry, I got distracted really quick.
Well, there's like a handful of parts like talking more about like the like physical, like the prosthetics that like Imhotep wears, and then also there's
Oh yeah.
moments where the mummy first comes to life and he meets Benny and he offers him some gold, and it's like that insert seems like it's an animatronic hand, versus like a visual
Mhm.
effects hand, or
It
maybe
might
it
be.
is. Because I
Yeah.
feel like the VFX are very like obviously like high budget, and
Hmm.
I mean for the most part, I mean there's like obviously a little bit of notes, but for the
Yeah.
but they
most
hold
part they
up.
like hold, right? Yeah. For like, I mean, think about it. It's like so long ago.
No,
What
the
I
effects do hold up really well, better than a lot of the jokes, I'll say. But you're right, there's not a lot of info on like what's digital versus practical or a blend. And I want to say like 1999 seems like it was earlier days for ILM. Am I that right?
It
no.
Yeah, did you
No.
well, I mean, kind of. I mean, prior to this, it's like the director worked with ILM on Deep Rising. Did you guys watch that? And we've got Benny
Hmm.
in that. That was
Yeah.
wild.
I mean, technically ILM exists because of Star Wars, so that's how long they've been around.
Oh, that's them. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Um, I mean, the only time the blending of practical and digital VFX really stand out. And I think it's more, they stand out more now when we have like Blu-ray and 4K stuff, is like when like Imhotep is in mid-transformation and like a scarab crawls out of his cheek and he eats it. Like you can see the digital patch of like they superimpose that on him. But when that first came out and you were watching it in the theater and even subsequent like VHS releases, the resolution so low, you don't really
Hmm.
notice it then.
Mm.
You know, it's kind
Yeah.
of
Oh
like when
no,
they,
there's definitely a
yeah,
you're definitely grading on a curve because we have
yes, I don't, so you don't
better
judge it.
resolution technology.
Yeah.
No, there's a bit of leeway, and yet I still feel like it holds up.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
I feel like
Um,
certain aspects of the mummy transformation, because we get several versions of the mummy, right, throughout the
mhm.
film. And so it's like certain aspects hold up better than others, in my opinion. You know, it's like when we first see him, it's like that's a practical, and then we go to the VFX, and then we're just like morphing onto that, and then we get back to like, okay, so there's like an actual human actor, and then they're just like superimposing that onto like his cheek and stuff, like what you were talking about. So it's like I feel like it's so wild because it goes back and forth between like it's totally selling, and then okay, so like the lighting's a little off. And I wonder, when you're talking about like the 4K restorations or anything like that, or like watching on like more of like a high def TV, I wonder if they go back, which I'm guessing they probably don't, but I wonder if they go back and they kind of like shadow things to like make up for that. You know what I mean? Like, do
They
they
try to
fix,
blend it a little
yeah,
more.
do they fix that? Do they pull like a Lucas and like go back and like fix all of those
not
elements in a way?
not
Like, not totally disturbing that tech, you know what I mean? But like, do they shadow it a little more? Because I feel like a lot of the problems that I have with the like visual effects is because it's glaring. It looks too shiny within the universe that it's living. Does that, maybe I'm getting
Hmm.
too deep, but that's like where I
No,
come
I was the same way, even though I really loved this film, even from the first time I saw it, I still couldn't shake that. Well, it still kind of feels like Indiana Jones and The Curse of the Mummy, which isn't really a dig, but if you're expecting a little darker, a little more horrific elements, it doesn't have that, so I can see the effects kind of be jarring that way. Um, I do know that they had a no gore rule.
Yes,
Uh,
they had to be like a PG-13, right? Which is so
yep,
interesting because I would have loved to see this film like a really heavy R. As
right.
a horror fan, I would have loved that.
Yeah. The other place to keep it PG-13, apparently, there's been talks, there's been like, stuff with the VX. They've done like interviews with the crew from back in the day and stuff. And one of the ones that the CGI effects people are most proud of was what they did to keep it PG-13 was when Evie jumps into the Nile wearing just the white nightgown. They are having to digitize over her bits because it's a white sheer nightgown that just clung to her naked body, and they're like, "So we can't do that. We have to fix this." Um,
See, but that's the problem because everybody in this film is so fucking hot. Like
everyone.
I can't handle it. Like I'm totally straight, but I love Evie and I would have loved an R rating on her.
um,
I
Anastasia,
mean, I'm just
you
being
know,
honest.
Yeah.
obviously we have a lot of similar interests, you and us, but I, generally speaking, we run in different circles. I'm
What does
curious
that
now
mean?
if you were, well, I mean, you're in Hollywood and you
Oh,
are,
okay. Okay. I was like,
your
wait, what?
peers are other people from the industry, and we are like industry adjacents. Um, but how familiar are you with the what do I even call it? The school of thought that
Phenomenon.
the phenomenon. But no, that's not how I'm like. presenting it. It is widely discussed and agreed upon in many parts of the internet and thus, in our lives, that The Mummy from 1999 is a multi-generational arbiter of bisexual awakening.
Yep.
It is the film for whom many a young people across several decades, when they watched that was the first time that they were like, oh, boys and girls, or girls and boys,
What? Yeah.
whatever, because the cast is pretty much all hot. Like even Benny, like under the right circumstances, even Benny could get it.
Don't even
Yeah.
get me started on Benny. Like, okay, I've been posting about how much I fucking love Benny. He is my MVP. The character actor, a genius, let me say, Kevin J. O'Connor. Like,
He channels the
Babler.
1930s. Yeah. His performance as Benny channels that classic Universal wormy sidekick toady so well. It's so well done.
He is so weaselly. He like so icky, but I'm like, Benny, what's happening? Like
And
I'm so upset. I mean, no spoilers, you've had time to watch, but like I'm so
yeah,
upset that he was not in the what was it, Mummy the Returns, or like
the
whatever the sequel
the
is.
Mummy Returns. Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
Batman Returns.
that was the fad.
Don't forget about young Oded Fair. Only
Oh,
only surpassed by mature Oded Fair.
I know. Yeah,
Okay,
Oh,
I
but
don't know
like
how anyone forgets Oded Fair.
I know.
for me, I was kind of annoyed because I was like, okay, so like how are you like devoting your life to protecting and trying to ward off people from coming into like Hamunaptra, and like you don't like have a sit down with all of these people, you just like let them come in and then you like shoot everybody, where we have freaking Evelyn, like she's murdering people left and right, and you don't just say like hey, come on over here, we have a little story to tell you, actually everything's cursed, can you not go in there right now? Like he's literally devoted his life, and his like father before him, I'm guessing, like how is this? I feel like everything rests on him. Like he is the main problem of the film when you think about it. I mean, I guess it would happen either way, but also like what's happening? He was supposed to guard it. Am I the only
right.
one?
Well,
I
and
think
also,
I look at that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, do it. No, do it.
Um, I think I look at that and go, the reason that they are just automatically going, these people have come in, we have to kill them, is they have had 2 millennia, 3 millennia of trying to talk people out of coming to the Cursed City, and it never works. So they're just like, no, just fucking kill them. Fuck it.
Yeah.
No one's gonna notice. Just kill them off. People,
So, and
white
yeah,
people are coming
Similarly,
down here all the time. Just kill them off. They'll just send more. What?
similarly, no
Just
one's no one's no one's like awoken the curse thus far. So
right.
probably a really low pressure situation anytime someone is trying to or even manages to find Hamanatra.
Yep.
mm-hmm.
Well, I
Yeah.
like how like in the beginning we've got like Brendan and he's fighting, and then he comes across like kind of like a cursed area, and then there's like we've got like jackal sounds, and we've got like you're gonna die kind of stuff happening, and then they just like let him go. They're like, It'll be fine. The desert, he'll
They do the
die."
thing of like, let the desert kill him. I mean, it kind of
Mhm.
makes sense. Normally that would work. I do
Not
love
in,
one of
not
the
in this movie.
That's true. I do like one of the notes is that apparently when they were designing the Magi, they wanted them all completely covered in those tattoos. And
Yes.
Summers saw Odin Fair and was like, guys, we cannot cover that perfect human face with these tattoos. Give them a little bit, but we're not covering that face up. Like, not at all.
He's like, baby, like, Denise, that's exactly what you were talking about. Everybody, including the director, is like, yes, everybody's sexy. What is happening? So, yes, I would go back to your point that according to me, I mean, I don't know that I talk about this film that much with a lot of people, unless I'm about to do a deep dive. But I would say with me, yes, everybody is sexy, and I'm like, I'm super like straight, but like if Rachel Weisz
But
came
still,
over,
yeah.
I would be like, yeah, okay, let's hang out.
You might be
Yeah.
straight, but
Sorry.
you're still human. You know.
That's right. I mean, I feel like it's definitely like, I mean, I'm trying to think. I feel like when I'm going through, I'm thinking about the Americans. I'm thinking about like what's his face from Jumanji. He's like a Babe Alert too, like the
Oh,
dad,
him.
like Hyde.
Yeah.
What's his name? Hyde?
Oh yeah.
Jonathan Hyde. Yeah.
Yes. Like he's great too. Like I'll take any of them. Such a fun film. It's so fun.
It's so much fun. I did find it funny that like so God, what's his name? We just talked about him, the actor who plays Benny.
Oh, Kevin?
Kevin O'Connor.
Kevin O'Connor. So
Mhm.
apparently, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it. You don't see him. You'll see him on camels, but apparently you don't really see camels moving when he's on them because apparently the camels hated him. So when
Well,
everyone would kind of go
that
and kick it, they'd all like walk on cue, and the camel he was on was like, meh. And they
fuck
were
this
like,
guy.
no, they're like, no, they
I
hate.
read the script. I read the
They're like,
script.
no, they
Fuck
hate
him.
this guy. Yeah, they're like, they don't like him.
That's so
That's
funny.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
Also, at the end of the movie, when he's trying to load up the camels, where did those camels come from? Nobody took camels to Hamunaptra that day.
I mean, you don't want to think too much into it. Just accept it.
Wait, which one? The first time they go to Hamanatra or the main movie
at the
part?
at the end of the movie.
Yeah, they do.
No, at the end of the movie?
So they go to Hamanatra with camels, at least O'Connell and Evie, because the Americans get horses and they get camels, right?
She's correct. At the end of the movie,
everyone
the
basically
people who
flies.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's right.
Maybe they're left over from before because they're camels and they can just like hang out and they don't need water, I guess.
Like,
Yeah,
like how camels in the desert.
No, but it's like
their weight in gold.
Is it like a max of like 3 days that this happens? Or are we thinking 2 days? Like, what's the vibe? You know, like with the timestamp? If you think about it,
probably only like one night goes by between them having left after they discover everything and then going back.
You know what?
Not the American team, but
it feels like longer because they're supposed to have 10 plagues, but we only get like maybe like 4 in, and then they're like, never mind, we're not doing the plague angle anymore.
Yeah, I feel like it's a plague a day before they like, we have to fix this. It's
right.
the water to blood.
And so that means that somebody showed up with like half a dozen camels to Hamunaptra and then left them there, or the people from before. Both of those teams, both of those exhibition teams left their camels in the desert alone for a week.
Which would make sense because when we have that scene where they're trying to like maybe rent or buy camels, and Jonathan, the brother, has a problem with the price, and I kept on thinking like as like I don't know like a lady who plans, and I'm like, how are they getting these camels back? Maybe that's why the price is so high because they never get their camels back. So basically, you have to buy them. You know, it's like these little things where I'm like, how does this work?
Yeah. That also reminds me of a fun kind of talking point. I didn't write it, but it popped in my head. So the mummy ends up having like these little deep kind of subtle moments that you don't realize until later or until you're older. So like Evie's brother is just this classic British universal throwback, rapscallion, and oh dear sister, da 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 blah blah. And then there's the part where there's the shootout, and this guy is just headshotting, and you're like, what the fuck? And then you realize that he's a drunkard because they kind of hint at it. They're like, oh, this guy was in World War One and was like a sniper.
Everybody was.
Well, I know, but it's like there's just some more going on with like these characters that they don't make it overt, but you kind of start to see their arcs. You know, you can start to see their arcs through the past, which is never really brought up, you know, in terms of who they are and stuff.
Well, that's so interesting that you point out because I think during the interviews that I was like deep diving, the director said that he didn't even know why he hired that actor or like for the role. And a majority of the time that John was in the scenes, he was improving and he didn't understand what his role was. And he was just like making these strong choices and nobody really knew. And so like he decided to make him like a drunk and things like that. So that's like really interesting that you
Hmm.
find that backstory where like maybe it's slightly foreshadowed, but like also like they were just trying to figure it out on set. Because like he
Right.
ended
That's
up
cool.
just
I didn't know
liking
that.
him.
The haunted war veteran theory is a really popular one on the internet, and there are a lot of little moments like that that sort of feed into that. The one that stood out for me on this in this viewing was when they're having a standoff with, it must have been the Americans, and so Rick's pointing his guns at them, and then Jonathan's got his guns like just over Rick's shoulder. Rick says something threatening. Jonathan says something along the same lines, and Rick's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." And it's not delivered in that like goofy, silly way that many of his lines and scenes
Hmm.
are. It's very straight faced and it's not bravado. It's just matter of fact. So that's
Yeah.
my favorite moment for him.
Hmm. Well, that and during the boat shootout, when first he's like, Americans. But then when they save him, they're like, "We done, chaps. Good show."
The
um,
scene that you're talking about, Denise,
Hmm.
when they're standing off, O'Connell's comment is that I've faced worse odds. And Jonathan's response was, me too.
Thank
That's
you.
that's when everyone just kind of went, wait, what?
yeah.
When? But
Interesting because it's like beforehand when we first meet him and he's like in the museum and it kind of seems like he's just like this rich kid,
Yeah,
because then
I'll
like
never
later
do
on
well.
we find out that like oh like the only reason why they're there is because like their parents are like the best patrons of the museum and so therefore like they're like making like major bank like you know donations, I'm guessing.
Hmm.
um and so like you're like okay, so whatever, he's like a little douchey. And then you find out like what you're talking about, Denise, that like okay, so like maybe he's seen some stuff and that's why he's like fucked up.
Yeah.
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 As a war vet myself, yeah, yeah, you do a lot of reckless and stupid and drunken stuff to deal with the things that you don't like to think about. Um, so it's an easy thing for people to recognize.
Yeah.
I think
It's an easy trauma response.
it's a common thing for people to recognize in others.
Yeah. Um, what was it? So I'm trying to think also, like, I like that the movie's not like tongue in cheek, but there's a lightheartedness to it. Like, I feel like Fraser knew to kind of channel his best Errol Flynn and not be super serious, which is part of the charm. But I think that's also helped by the fact that what's his name as Imhotep, like Was it Arnold
Arnold
Vosloo?
Maslow. Yeah.
Vosloo, he plays it 100% straight. Like he is it that's the way he plays Imhotep is I am the hero of this story. Like that's how he's played. And I think if he'd have been played it as a more kind of like, oh, I am the evil mummy kind of thing, it wouldn't work. He's
That's
like, no, I was denied this by rights. I'm getting her back, and then I'm gonna punish the world for doing this because I am right.
Yeah, that's so interesting to say because it's like when you think about a lot of like the villains in anything, it's like they think that they're doing the right thing and that's their
Yeah,
motivation. And they're just like delusional, but they definitely think they're doing the right thing. I mean, for this film, it's like I feel like it's definitely a love story and I feel so bad for Emotep because it's like he falls in love with the mistress and then he's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry. We're gonna bring you back. It's totally fine." And she's like, "Okay, babe." And so she goes crazy and she's like, fuck you, but especially fuck you, you know? And so she's like, "I'm gonna oof myself, knowing that she'll come back and then everything gets a little
my
scrambled."
my boyfriend's the head priest. His literal job is to bring people back from the dead. I got this.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's fine.
So apparently those
That's
two,
still a really good point, though. Imhotep is ostensibly the villain of the movie, but he's really not. Even the plagues that he's bringing down on everybody, that's not his choice, really. It's part of the curse
Yeah, I
that was
feel
the
placed
like
on
whole,
him.
Loki, the villains are like Rick and Evelyn and Jonathan. Like, sorry, but you guys are all like the villains.
I like, I do like. I don't think it's flat out said, but like when Oded Fair's character um is talking about he was given the worst ever, like the whom die, and if he's ever comes back from this living death that he was punished with, he's gonna come back with the powers of a god. And I remember thinking like, well,
Why
that's
would
a
you do
weird
that?
punish. Why would you do that?
No,
Like it's
but
one thing of like
it's like for me, it's like it's like okay, so like everybody decides like okay, so like Emotep is the one we hate the most. Okay, so like hate him. Let's curse him. And then they're like, okay, by the way, we're probably just gonna have to use like this skeleton key that can be used for like a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. And then they're like, okay, also, by the way, it only takes two phrases repeated to like extinguish him. So like it's just like a lot story plot wise. Like
Really low
yeah.
why
security.
why did they do this?
Right, yeah.
Like I know they didn't have the internet and everybody's bored, but like also like why did they choose to like do this terrible curse and then make it so that if anybody figures it out, he's like the worst evil in the world, but also low key like it's easy to I don't know. It's like it's very convoluted, but I have to say like Emotep's goal is very like easy and clean. He just wants to get his girlfriend back.
Hmm,
Everything around him is chaos, but his one goal is just to get his girly.
Right. Um
Like some of that can be explained away as like if you create a horrific curse like they go to great lengths to make his very death torturous, right? They bury him
yeah.
alive, they mummify him alive, they burn out his tongue. Most people, the idea is you die and Anubis weighs your heart and you go on from there. I would imagine that a living person approaching the realm of death has a different agenda. And as we've seen, with other pieces of media, like gods can be capricious and like using mortals as an instrument to kind of influence the world to their satisfaction. So it could have been just that Imhotep, upon crossing over, made some deals. It's like, hey, you know what? All I just want to get back and resurrect my lady love. I dabble a bit in the sorceries and the spellcraft already, so I'm a pretty good vessel. If, but I could, use a hand, and in doing so, I'll do this, and how many souls do you want? Type of thing.
Well, I think actually in the opening, Oded Fair's character says like, if he comes back, the curse will grant him the powers of the god, kind of thing. So I like
What
your
Is
idea
the
more because the idea of a punishment also coming with the possibility of being resurrected as an unstoppable undead killing machine
Mhm.
seems like a flaw in your punishment design.
But I guess
right like why are
it,
we giving him that much power for somebody
yeah.
we hate we hate him the most, but let's make him like the king of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess and now that we've like discussed it a little more, it does make sense that he can use those powers and then chooses to do that because he's been undead essentially for 3,000 plus years after you
Yeah.
killed his girlfriend and then mummified him alive. So so
Right.
he's got some feelings.
I mean, it
Oh
couldn't have
yeah.
been that fun with the scarabs, like eating him, and then he has to eat the scarabs in like this vicious like circle of life, and he's like writing threats with his nails in the like tomb. Yeah. No, it's probably not a
But it
party time.
it does lead to one of my favorite lines in the movie when he like when they first open, he's all like, "Blah," and he just comes out as the corpse. And Evie's like, they're not usually this, and Brendan Fraser's like, juicy.
Juicy. Yep.
Juicy.
There's so many great quotes in this film. I feel
Um,
like every other line is an amazing quote.
and also, I'm jumping a little bit. I am still to this day utterly freaked out, and I don't know if it's real. I've never looked it up. I'd rather just let my imagination think it's a real thing. Much like in the 80s and 90s, I was completely terrified of quicksand.
Hmm.
um, to this day, that salt acid booby trap that like melts the faces away, I'm like, that's horrible. Is that real? I don't know. It's probably not. I've never looked it up. I like to think it's a real thing.
Probably real.
But it's so fucked up because the movie up till then it's kind of it's an adventure. It's a lark. And then like, oh, these workers, we're gonna melt their face off with salt, you know?
Like in Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Not with salt,
Yeah.
but from what I remember about, my Egyptologist aspiration childhood days, like any girl from the 90s, 80s and 90s, part of the um sort of oh, what's the word where you sort of like uh exoticize uh other cultures
It's a well, it's fetishizing.
yeah, there's a different word for it that I can't remember. But one of the things that I remember learning as a kid was that uh, a lot of the ideas around Egyptian curses
Hmm.
comes from things like the whole pressurized salt thing, where like, and it wasn't necessarily that it was on purpose always, but some of the times, yes, they were like booby traps that the Egyptians would put into their grave sites to prevent
Hmm.
grave robbers. And then when white folks came by and started tomb raiding everything, they would open these up and people's faces would get melted off or like some sort of spore would come out and make people sick. Again, some of it was on purpose, some of it was just natural occurrences, but that's where the idea that curses were a thing in ancient Egypt. So,
Yeah.
so all this to say, yeah, the whole pressurized salt thing, probably a real thing.
Oh, it's fucked up. You know what else is fucked up?
The-
Just popped in my head really quick. Do you know there used to be like hundreds of thousands of mummies in the world? and why there's not as many anymore is because the Victorian British ate them.
Mm-hmm. It's weird and gross.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, they must be really rare. And I read they're like, no, they weren't actually. They just were eaten by the Victorians and put in tea. I'm like, what? Okay.
Gross.
Just like shave it into
Yeah.
your on your food like truffles. What were you gonna
Hmm.
say, Cable?
I was just going to say the short answer from the internet, and I'll go into this off air, is yes, that was a thing.
Yeah. Also, fuck.
Just don't open any Egyptian grave sites and you're fine.
Or
I
any.
mean,
How about just like, don't go desecrating grave sites.
I
Don't
feel
tell me
like
what to do.
that's a big ask in the horror community. Like,
yeah.
you
That's fair.
know, we don't have a lot going on. I mean, I feel like 80% of our films are about that.
Yep.
I know. I'm a
Also,
horror fan and a DM. Cable raiding tombs is my bread and butter, man.
uh-huh.
Don't take that away from us.
That's right.
Also, do not read the books aloud.
Oh,
Do
never
not
read
read
the
the
books
books
out
aloud.
loud. What are you, 3?
I don't think anything bad ever came from reading it aloud. I mean, come on.
What harm
All
ever
the
came from a book?
Yeah.
it's it's not what Burton meant when he said read a book.
I mean, it is in there.
Okay,
Um,
can we switch gears and talk about how much I wish that the sequel actually took place right after this film and went into Evie and Rick's like love and like before they got married and everything like that, instead of skipping ahead and then the next film skipping ahead even more, just as a raging fan of the Mummy. What
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you guys have watched like the sequel, but it skips ahead a lot, and I wish that they didn't because apparently the director got a call from the studio the day after the film was released, and it was such amazing like numbers that they're like, yeah, we need a sequel immediately. And I don't know why they jumped ahead like 10, 11 years or whatever it was, but I wish that they kept it more like on par to the timeline that we're in right now with the Mummy, you
yeah,
know?
because their kids
Because
like what 7 or 8 in the Mummy Returns.
he's
Oh
like
wow.
10 or 12 or something, and then Mummy
Oh,
Returns.
okay.
And like, while the kid is like a great actor, I just really don't like the kid in the film. And I wish that we would have gotten to more of like Rick and Evie, like their love blossoming. And then maybe at the end of the film, she's like, by the way, we're having a baby. You know what I mean? Rather than skipping. I don't know why. Because you would think, like, with a hit and in this universe, they would want to, like, drag it out. It's like, why did they jump so far into the future? I don't get it. You know?
What rating did the Mummy have? PG-13?
PG-13.
My guess would be that somebody up top felt like adding a kid to the franchise would keep it family friendly or like bring more
Boo.
kids into the
As
fandom.
a mom, boo.
Nobody likes a 7-year-old kid, by the way. Like ages like 6 to 12. Disgusting.
There's
What's
only
up,
one
Gable?
good.
Gable.
This movie was one of the first major motion pictures for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who is coming out of the WWE and has a fan base that is predominantly children.
Uh,
Ergo, you put a child in the movie that children can relate to because you are now casting children's
Mm,
heroes as the major villain of the movie, criminally underused and horribly done CGI. That I feel like The
yeah,
Mummy Returns exists solely to show that the CGI in The Mummy stands up better than other CGI of the time, including its own sequel. Because I watched them back to back. The CGI is atrocious for
it's
the
Okay,
bad.
sequel.
Yeah.
thank you
But
for
that,
bringing that
yeah,
up
yeah,
because
that's
I
why I
remember
think the
now.
kid. Oh yeah.
I haven't rewatched the other Mummy movies since they came out, but I remember that they hyped up The Rock being in the new Mummy movie like ad nauseum. There was
Yep.
just so much hype, and then the only Dwayne The Rock Johnson you get is the god awful CGI until like the very end. I think you get to see him as like a regular
No, no,
dude.
no, no.
No,
You get
Yeah.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson in the first 10 minutes of the movie in the backstory of the Scorpion King. The rest of it is all CGI.
Uh,
When he's revealed at the end of the movie, it's just a CGI effect where it should have been a combination of practical effects of Dwayne the Rock Johnson in some giant scorpion armature
yeah, and
suit. That would have been so much better.
and
And then
apparently even then they knew it was bad. They were so rushed for time, and the studio was like, "You were hitting this release date," and they're like, "It's gonna look like shit," and they're like, "I don't care, get it
and
out
it
there."
did.
Yeah,
which also means now that the Mummy franchise serves as a bit of a time capsule for when we stopped making movies with high quality, uh, integrated practical and special like visual effects, i.e., The Mummy 1999, and started going make it cheaper, make it faster. We don't give a shit. The Mummy Returns 2001. There's your cutoff for people like giving a shit about making a movie the best you can make it versus just get it out, just get it out and start making that money.
right. And then I know that Rachel Weisz isn't in Tomb of the Dragon Emperor
That's the
for
third
a few
one.
reasons. Yeah, her schedule didn't allow, but she also didn't like the script because I've rewatched it recently. Um, she has almost no growth. She's still this ditzy, but now she's supposed to be like a mother to an adult child. And she hasn't grown like at all. She's still this like, hey, God. And she's like, that's really not what Evie would be now.
Mm.
No,
Um,
and that character arc starts in The Mummy. Like there is
mm-hmm.
so much character growth in that character. That's one of the reasons why Evie is appealing. That's why Rick O'Connell is appealing. That's why Jonathan is appealing because they all have growth that you see throughout the movie. It's
Yeah.
not just that they are, yes, they are designed to be archetypes of that time period, but all of those actors just brought real life to them. Like Oded Fair's character could have been a racial stereotype, and instead, I've thought about this a lot. I feel like The Mummy actually provides an opportunity for positive images of Arabs.
Mm,
Yeah, it
yeah.
would have been really easy to make his character as obviously like good at fighting, but being more like superstition based and oh, you know, like they could have let him play that. That could have been his character. And he's not. He doesn't treat it. He's like, you can call it superstition, but it's a fucking fact.
Yep.
And I'm going to use you know, where it would have been easy, but like, I'm going to draw my sword. He's like, no, I'm going to pull out this fucking trench machine gun and open up
Hmm.
on him. It ain't going to stop him, but it's going to buy us time, you know, kind of
I
thing.
I also think that if this were made in the 80s, just like 10 years prior, they would have been the Knights Templar and a bunch of
Oh,
white Europeans.
Ugh,
N-
to
that's
see that.
gross because the Magi are a real
Right.
Yeah.
group
Instead,
of
they went,
people.
no, no, we're in Egypt. They should be Egyptian. They should be Arab. And let's make them, they are the knights that are protecting this.
Mhm.
I feel like everything about them, Magi, are has this very, it should be celebrated the same way they celebrate knights and samurai, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
That
Hmm.
does make
Right.
sense because that's literally what they are.
Yeah,
They're essentially were border patrol and
No.
grave site protection.
right.
Yeah, I feel like everybody in this film is like a heightened version of who they are, almost like I don't want to see like say like a caricature, but they're all like very heightened versions and almost like I also don't want to say like it's Scooby Doo, but we're getting close to that in some respects throughout the film. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the stuff that's happening is like very cartoony, almost like
Mhm.
a Three Stooges or a Laurel and Hardy. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like everybody is like that. You know, like the Americans are like that. We're like
Mm-hmm.
nobody's safe. Everybody's like a cartoon of themselves. It feels like. But then
Yeah.
there are moments that we take, you know, like there's a moment that hit me when it's like what's his name from Jumanji when he gets it. And I always
Mm-hmm.
forget that he gets it like in the like almost like the town square because we don't see his death. It's like off camera, but we see the aftermath.
Right.
Um but it's like Benny sees the next American, the last American get it. Oh yeah, now we're partying.
I know, just
Where's
chugging
my
that Dayquil.
Dayquil? Um sorry,
Take me back to my high school days.
that was
I
off
know,
guard.
man.
But so it's like Benny, I feel like he gets like a character arc because he's like this like crazy comedian and then like he's like this like ruthless weasel and he's using everybody like you know it doesn't matter it's he's using Rick he's using the Emotep he's using everybody around him but he has like this moment where he like it's like the last American bites the dust and he like looks away because it's like it's too much for him to handle. I don't know if you guys remember that moment, but it's
I
like
do remember
Yeah.
that.
it's almost like he's got like a little bit of the pathos, you know, like his character gets there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also
and then he comes back and he's like fucking shit up all the time and then he like somehow like they've got this trigger switch that is not like there's no warning but like there's like okay we're just gonna blow up this like pyramid real quick you know like when he puts his bag on it and then he's donezo.
I kind of see it as that moment Benny has seen all the Americans and to an extent O'Connell, all of them. Because he's always going to just be out for himself. He's like a survivor in that
Yeah,
way,
Yes.
you
yeah,
know.
definitely.
But all the Americans, O'Connell, Evie, all of them, they're his buffer. As long as Imhotep is fucking with them, he's going to be able to pull his scam. And when the last American dies, I also see it as like, oh crap, I've got to play it straight with Imhotep now because I'll be next. He'll just take me out for stepping out of line, so I got to play my cards now, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're already at an hour. We could probably keep going, but I know we talked about it on text and stuff too. Well, Dean, did you want to do something else or?
I was just gonna say, this is our last film fever with Anastasia
But we
Elfman.
can go longer then. It's fine.
I'm in no rush. No pressure to
Okay.
anybody else. But
No, I'm good.
what else were you
No,
gonna say?
I think he was going to cover one more topic, specifically kind of launching forward to give us a little more time.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. And that how we all kind of I said it in the email, but then we had a quick little text thread about how like this was in a way this was meant to launch a new Universal line, and it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the second attempt at that was Van Helsing. Ugh. Um, sorry if people like that. Van Helsing was meant to be the next attempt before they did the Tom Cruise Mummy. But so, all right, we can even ignore Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Even though I don't hate it, it's pretty fucking weak. Um,
I still haven't watched it all the way. I think I was still offended that it's like nothing against Maria Bello because I like Maria Bello as an actor, but that just the immediate switch to a different actor for Evie was like, no, this is not okay.
yeah, I mean the idea was cool in that like there aren't just mummies in Egypt, so let's play around.
Hmm.
Because if that hadn't tanked, which it kind of did, the fourth one initially was going to be um, in like the Andes, based on like a Peruvian mummy of like, oh, what are we gonna do now? That
Hmm.
was what they were gonna play with. But it just didn't do well. And Brendan Fraser was basically addicted to pain pills by then. And
Hmm.
he said it wasn't like a hidden thing. He was like, I'd go to shoot a day of Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and he talks about I'm literally strapping an exoskeleton to my back and to my legs, and then putting the costume over it, and like just chewing Demerol like it's candy to go shoot a scene. And he's like, why am I fucking doing this to myself? Because he took it, he was like, but I want to do this because people love this character and I owe it to them, kind of thing. So but yeah, we talked about, all right, so how do you do a sequel that actually does launch a new Universal monster setting? What do you all do? No pressure.
Well, like I'll jump in since I
Mhm.
in the text thread I put this in there and like I would set it um so that Mummy Returns was 1933. I would jump forward to 1953, maybe 1963, um, where you can have Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and Oded Fair reprise their characters, but they are clearly past their adventuring days.
Hmm.
Um, the character of Alex O'Connell can be brought back in, and that character would then be in their 30s.
Maybe even early 40s.
Yeah, but and they can like they can still be adventuring, but they're also going, I don't know about this, and start playing with bringing those universal monsters into an even more modern, familiar arena that I feel like part of the appeal at the time was these ancient monsters were invading our present. Like
Hmm.
like when those movies were being made, it was still being as if it was present time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, they were
Um,
contemporary.
yeah. So like just bringing those more forward so that we have I think the horror is wait, this is something ancient that we don't understand, and we don't have any means to combat it because we have smartphones.
Right.
But I don't know that that's the direction I would take it to start with, maybe with the mummy, and then start moving through the rest of them.
Mm.
Hmm.
Thoughts?
So
Other
kind of
ideas?
like kind of turning uh the O'Connell family and lineage into a sort of like what other films have tried to do with the Van Helsing
Hmm.
lineage.
Right.
Gotcha.
Which you could totally do in this make believe third mummy movie. That I like the idea of it taking place even like in the early 60s, where it like peak atomic era and these universal monsters feel passe, which was an actual vibe in the 60s. It wasn't until Hammer brought them back that
Right.
like, so now the O'Connells, that people are like, yeah, sure, you
Yeah,
dealt
we
with
have the bomb to
ancient,
be afraid of. Who's scared of
yeah, really,
Dracula?
exactly. And you could, in a weird way, you could introduce the Van Helsing family
Hmm.
of being like, and I like the idea of like the League of Monster Hunters in a weird kind of way. Um, you could totally do all that. One of the ideas I also kind of had that would then lead on to like more is the idea that like part of you could make an argument that part of Anaxinamun is still
Hmm.
in Evie. She's still got a little bit of this immortal Egyptian entity inside her. So, I mean, I'm not sure where you go with it, but it's like, oh, she's the actual linchpin in all this. Like Evie's going to be the one that is like, you can even throw a thing in like Evie's aging much slower than Rick. And they kind of figure out why, and it kind of breaks her heart. She's like, I'm going to outlive Rick by like a century. But now I have this responsibility and we can build from there or something like that.
I think that works. They did sever that connection between her and Oksana Moon in
Hmm.
the sequel,
They did, yeah.
but they presented a different one, which was that she is actually the reincarnation of Nefertiti.
Oh shit, that's right. I forgot about that
And
part.
she was killed and brought back to life by the Book of the Dead.
Yep.
So there's your, that's why she's aging slower. That's why she's not, yeah, there are, the pieces are there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're totally there.
I did not remember all of that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how in the Karloff version, I read that there was a scene that got cut that was going to show um all of the different lives that the woman's the character's name in that one was Helen, I want to say, who used to be an Moon. There was a scene where they were going to just kind of like do a sizzle reel of all of her previous lives between Moon and Helen in the 1920s. That could have been a really interesting way, a really interesting way to like branch off.
hmm
You know, connected to what you're saying. This is not like fully my own thought, but
No,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
really center it around Evie and this sort of reincarnative uh, core spirits entity that kind of
Right.
ties her to all of that.
Yeah,
That's
that
it.
could be. No, that could totally work. And because I like the idea of the universal horror monsters are more like they are archetypes. So in that way, they are eternal. You put them down for a while, but they're almost like a force of nature. Eventually, one of them's coming back to test mortal men if they're worthy of continuing to exist in a weird way. To borrow from Evil Dead. Anastasia, what like if you were able to do a sequel that could then springboard an entire monster universe? No pressure, but what do you think you would do if you had an idea?
Well, I mean, for the mummy, it's kind of like it would go along the lines of what I said before, where the sequel wouldn't be so far away from the film that we left off, you know? And then at that point, it's like maybe there's areas where other universes can cross over somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
hmm
what everybody was talking about basically. Um my problem is like for some reason, even though it's like there is audience like craving this universe, the studios are like, yeah, let's jump ahead 10, 20 years. And it's like, no, let's live in the moment. Why can't we see like Rick and Evie get married or, you know, like open up their own museum or go on more adventures? Like, why do we have to jump
hmm
forward? Why do we have to involve the kid? Why do we have to like age the kid to be an adult and then kind of like, you know, kind of push Rachel Weisz out. You know what I mean? Because she doesn't like if you do your
Yeah.
research, it's like she didn't want to like be a mom to an adult, which makes
Right.
sense. In Hollywood, it's like women have to like really protect themselves because everybody's trying to fuck you over, you know?
Right.
And
So it's like
phase you out.
yeah, exactly. You don't want to age yourself and then you can't get those younger parts anymore. Like even me, I'm like a nobody. I'm even cautious about playing somebody's mom because it's like I still want to be the
Yeah.
girlfriend, you know?
Yeah. I mean, when Tomb of Dragon Emperor
And
came out,
it's so
yeah.
evil because it's like these guys can play like they're like freaking 60, 70 years old and their girlfriends are like 20, you know, but like should I talk? I don't know. That's okay. That's
Fair,
okay.
fair.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, it's almost like Hollywood hasn't figured out that, women are people.
What? We're people? Since when?
Hello.
I thought we were commodities.
Oh.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's okay.
by the
I can say it. I can say it. I don't know about some of you, but I can.
I'm not making that joke.
You're like, I'm not gonna go there. That's okay.
Right.
I'm the blonde. I'll get away with it.
Oh.
No, but
Uh,
I mean, I just don't like it when like franchises like The Mummy jump so far ahead because I feel like they could have gotten away with like 5 sequels in between all of these like time jumps. You know what I mean? And as a fan,
you
it's
cut
like
yourself off.
I would pay
Right.
money. I would literally pay money to like be in this universe longer because I love the chemistry between all of these sexy hot babes. And
Yeah.
I don't know why they killed off Benny because he is so great. Like the actor, he is so amazing and plays Benny so brilliantly. You know, we
I
were
mean,
talking about the nuances that he has, and it's like, why wasn't he in the sequel and a third one, and then we can kill him off, or like maybe he becomes like the evil guy. You know what I
oh, to
mean?
say
Like,
there's, I mean, in our fictional third sequel, taking the idea that we have to cast Fraser and Weisz as they are right now. So we got to do some jumping ahead, which, by the way, both have said they'd be open to it. They're like, if the script is fun and they acknowledge that we can't do this physical shit anymore, we're both down.
yeah. So
So
I'm hearing like maybe it's on my shoulders. I've got to write the script for them to get them all back, and then maybe
I'll
Benny
help you on it.
maybe Benny doesn't die and he actually like survived. It's fine. It's
Well,
fine.
he here's the thing. Benny could have died eventually, and you realize that he's still in that temple that has that weird goop. So the third movie, he could be the new villain, and he's like, "Oh, you
Yep.
thought that you put the mummy down? You could even fucking take a cue from old school Universal and literally call it the mummy's curse or the ghost. Just do it. Just
Let's
take whatever that, yeah, and just you know.
let's do it. I mean, like I feel like
Can you
Hollywood.
imagine?
Go
Can you
ahead.
imagine a creepy old Benny when they're trying to figure out like what's causing this? And then you hear in the shadows when like, I don't know, the O'Connell mansion is being attacked, and you hear this gritty, fucked up voice going, O'Connell. And you're like, and he's like, I know that voice. And Rachel Weisz is like, no, no, he's dead. He's dead. We saw him die. And then wha-bam. Oh, I got
Looks
chills. That's so fucking cool. Sorry.
I
looks to
think
me
the
like I've
mummy's
got all the
curse.
horses.
Yeah.
I think the
Looks to
mummy's
me like
curse
you're
is
on
one
the
of
wrong
the.
side of the river. I
Yes.
love that delivery so much.
It's
Yeah.
so good. It's so yummy. I love it.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Bean?
The Mummy's Curse is one of the sequels from
Mm-hmm.
the 1930s
Oh,
original. So
yeah.
it's totally
Yeah.
in-house. It works. My vision for like recreating or bringing back the Mummy in a more lasting way would be to make it a high-end TV show. You know, like I'm talking HBO, maybe Amazon. But I don't know. They're none of their big shows really last like they do on HBO. And make it kind of in the style of Legends of Tomorrow, right? Where
Interesting.
Yeah.
like we've been talking about how all of the characters are kind of archetypes. You know,
Hmm.
everyone brings their own you know, their own different, like, unique thing to the table, but they can be a family. That's, you know, a family plus a couple close friends who've, you know, survived
Hmm.
an apocalypse or two together. And they travel around the world in like researching, like it can be a little bit like what I imagine the librarians show is like, where they're, you know, they're scholarly and intelligent.
Oh, I think
And
you're
so they
giving
know.
way too much credit to that series.
Yeah, don't
I've
get me
never
wrong.
watched it, so I'm
I love
guessing.
the librarians, but they're not super scholarly. It's fucking
No.
fun, but
Okay. Well, these characters would be. They would be scholarly and know a lot about history and ancient
Hmm.
civilizations and cultures, which makes them very well equipped to take on ancient monsters and other entities from the past that are rising up again in whatever modern era you want to put them in, whether it's contemporary or you could make it a um, double period story by making it like, oh, it's the 20s, it's the 40s, it's the 60s, whatever you want to do with it. So now it's a period piece because they're from X era, but then we get to see a lot of like cutscenes to ancient Egypt or ancient China, wherever the accursed creature is coming from, whatever sort of oogie, whatever boogeyman they're dealing with that week. They can do cutscenes like they do in the Mummy to show what happened and why there's a curse, and
Right.
all the expo can be historical also.
Yeah.
So there's like lots of eye candy, really flashy, but also it's smart and people will learn things because they are scholars and you can use real information from history. Wouldn't
So
that be fun?
it's just a
I like
bunch of
this.
it's a bunch of cutscenes to Benny, right? Is that what that's
Yes.
the vibe that I'm
Yes.
getting? That
Benny
it's
is the
like
monster in every episode.
every single
Yeah.
it's like a Scooby Doo, and it's Benny again, and he's like
and Oded Fair is like your sexy uncle, like not really your uncle, but you call him your
Right.
uncle. So like no one can ever know that you've got the hots for him.
I'm down because
I like,
everybody is a babe.
yeah. I also just love the fact that if you were to do this, like the library of monsters you could draw upon from just Universal's library. You're like, fuck it. You know what? What if the Wolfman wasn't evil? What if the Wolfman, we find out eventually, he's buddies with O'Connell. Like they met each other on an adventure and they thought, okay, he's bad. We got to put the Wolfman down. And then in a flashback, like the Wolfman saved him. And they're like, well, maybe he's not bad actually. And now they're buddies. And the creature is an environmental message of like, hey, maybe if you quit fucking with the Amazon, this monster wouldn't come out.
They stop. Yeah, I like that.
Just a bunch of stuff like keep Dracula evil because that's just fun, But it's like you want to do the mole man? Yeah, sure, fuck it. We own the mole man. How do we do the I don't know. Let's do the fucking mole man. Rachel Weisz
Oh,
and Brendan Fraser punch the mole man in the face. I'd watch that show.
and you kept throwing the word library around. What if the like the because Hollywood loves a like a physical representation of a concept. What if every monster that they defeat or every curse that they break, it gets entombed in a book like structure, and
Oh, I'm
then
seeing merchandise
the
now.
family has their
Yep.
library of all of the creatures that they defeated. So it looks like books, but it's cold storage for all of the foes they've taken on and defeated.
Right.
Mhm.
So
So
here's
this
what's
is like
funny.
there's like a Goosebumps like spin-off, right? Is that what we're going to like Oral
See,
Stein
here's where I went.
universe?
Here's where I went, which is funny because you mentioned this character about 40 minutes ago. Denise, that's very similar to the plot of the vastly underrated late 80s, early 90s cartoon, The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
I think it's just Fred and Daphne, Scooby and Shaggy, and 13 ghosts on a case are released and they have to hunt down these 13 demons or the world's going to be over. And like fucking Vincent Price was the narrator. It's like, welcome to the 13 ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Show was a trip.
I think I might have watched
There was
that.
no Fred. There was no Fred or
There's
Velma.
no
It was
Fred
Shaggy and Daphne and Scooby.
because she's like a TV talk show host, right? In that one.
Something like that.
I haven't watched, I want to go back and watch to see how well it holds
Yep.
up. It was a trip.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, it's really weird to me that like in an animated series you can't bring back all the characters.
I mean, maybe they didn't
Um,
want to.
Which
Who
yeah, I
knows?
don't know why they didn't.
I don't know.
it is. I mean, maybe it was a budgeting thing. Like, oh, we don't want to hire that many actors, but that's weird. Like, if they're not real. You can hire
Who
anybody to be the
knows?
voice actor.
Yeah,
I mean, they had to wait till Matthew Lillard came along to replace Casey Kasem. So
that's right.
Casey
Fucking.
Kasem is who did the voice of Shaggy.
Yep.
yeah,
Never knew that.
he
Yeah.
also played Robin in the Super Friends.
Yep. Which was weird. That had to really piss off what's his name because it wasn't like he was working.
Burt Ward.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, because Adam West got to do it, but yeah. Anyway.
Eventually, he didn't start off as the first voice of Batman for the Super Friends cartoon.
That's true. No, you're right.
They brought Adam West in during the Superpowers storyline. Why? Why do I know this?
The challenge of the Super
Anyway,
Friends. Ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da-da-ba, ba-ba-da-ba.
yep. There we go.
Anyway,
Well, I think we figured out how to fix Universal Studios' issue with how to really revamp and get
Nah,
the Universal monsters back out there. Um,
I mean, yeah, right now they're going to try it with an amusement park, which, look, I don't want
Ugh.
to go to Florida, but I want to go to that park.
I was gonna say, like, I kind of want to go because now I'm seeing that they're doing they've got the whole like it's like the windmill from Frankenstein,
It's really on
like
fire.
it they're like doing practices with it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not super happy with them not using the like OG likenesses of our classic Universal monsters, like obviously like Lon Chaney Jr., Karloff,
I'm, well,
Lugosi, like that kind of pisses me off.
I
But
think the Karloff estate still gets paid for any likeness of Karloff.
they better. They
I could see
better.
Universal being like, well, look, we own these characters. Let's just make them look different because we don't want to have to pay these various estates.
It, it seems like it would be a perfect. I mean, I've mentioned this probably on this podcast before too, but it's like it feels like it would be a perfect like point to expose everyone to these like classic artists, and the reason why we like a major reason why we have Universal to this day. Like they brought us through the Great Depression, these
Yeah,
like classic monsters literally paid to keep the studio going, like show some respect on them, like it pisses me off, but also like I rally for all of these creatives.
totally get what you're saying, Anastasia. Um, but like from the perspective of the studios, that costs money, and they don't give that away.
no.
But also,
Gr-
there's a ton of money that they're spending on these animatronics and things like that. I think that they
Well,
can take
that's
care of,
investing.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
It's
100%
like
agree. I totally agree.
ethics wise, it feels kind of scummy, but business, I guess.
No,
Studios being scummy? What?
Since when? Since when? Hollywood.
they will only spend money if they think it is making them money. They're never going to throw you a bone because you kept them above water that one time.
You know
It's
what?
not how that works.
I would say as a fan, and I feel like if more fans knew this about like buying license merch from these different entities, I feel like I would go and I would want to pay more for a ticket if it was supporting all of that. Does that make sense? Like
Sure.
I as
Yeah.
a fan would definitely, especially this day and age where everybody's like, okay, let's do everything. Let's dot our I's and cross our T's. Let's take care of our own. Let's do all this. But they're also trying to like fuck over, like the originals. I don't know. I don't know. Don't get me going.
Uh, by the way, I'm glad that you brought this up because since this is our last film fever, apparently I was feeling nostalgic or just sort of sappy. And while we have you on air, I just wanted to say that I've really enjoyed having you on the show with us. And I mean, I
Yeah.
know the guys feel the same way, but for me specifically, as someone who so it's one thing to like recognize that like film has a long and rich history, but choose not to engage with that for whatever reasons, whether it's because I wasn't brought up to appreciate it or I just didn't see the value in it. Okay, fine. But then, and then to eventually decide, okay, I want to engage with these movies more and learn more about them. All right, that's like a little baby step. And then the next level to that is for someone to identify, here is a list of important films that you should watch. Which, I personally am referencing the Mopop's 100 and plus horror films you have to see before you die. I'm like, okay, I love horror. There's a lot of stuff on here, like the modern stuff. Most of it I've seen. A lot of it I haven't, but I've heard really good things. And then the older stuff, okay, this is like a seal of approval that these are really good horror films. So what if it's a silent era movie and you don't like silent movies? Let's give it a shot, like educate yourself, bitch. But I think that the final tier there is to have someone who is not just an equally avid lover of horror films, but someone who is also an avid lover of older films throughout history and also is a part of the industry, and that would be you, Anastasia, to join us and like curate even further, like let's watch this film and talk about it and be able to discuss why it was important, who these people were, and the like the outside influence that they had in the history of film, whether it's in horror or all of the film industry, has been really wonderful. And it's been the absolute cherry on top of this. I hate to use the word journey. It sounds so woo woo, big hat white girl thing. But for the last couple years, I've been trying to find an appreciation for a lot of these films, silent era, black and white, pre-code, and it's been a tough process to really find the thing about them that draws me in, and you've really sealed that for me, is like finding the reason to want to watch these films and then being better for it because now I have those connections between the modern and the old. So thank you very much for joining us and sharing your love of these movies with us.
Oh my God, that's so kind. I was trying to think because this all kind of caught me off guard, and I totally respect everybody's choices and everything like that, but it's kind of like, I don't know, I'm like a girly who's in it for the long haul with anything that I do, and I give 1,000%. You guys probably know. And so it was really interesting to go from, let's say, we met at one of our wild like screening events, and then to randomly get an invite to come and kind of join your family. I don't know, was so special to me because it's I didn't have any preconceived notions other than I'm a raging like film lover, and I watch a lot of different horror films, obviously from pre-code, silent to modern day, and I feel like I'm a product of everything that I've ever watched. And so I didn't have any preconceived notions. And for you to say, Denise, that maybe you didn't watch all of these things, I never thought of, when I would make choices or give you guys options, I never came in thinking you guys don't know anything. I just kind of came in with love and support, if that makes sense. So I don't know. This is so bittersweet because I love you guys each individually as friends, and I feel like we've gotten closer, um, through the interwebs and sharing love of film and stuff. So I don't know. I didn't come up with anything to say other than thank you for giving me this platform to pick my favorite films, and also from looking at the behind the scenes, I would give you guys a list, and it was a groupie, it was a group pick. I never came through saying this is what we're gonna watch, no matter what. It was everybody had to vote, it was a very democracy based thing. And I wanted that. I wanted everybody to be included in this because it's I feel like for me, it's like what made this like aspect of this episode unique was that everybody enjoyed the film, or like everybody had something to say, and it wasn't just like talking heads. It was like coming from the heart, you know? Because that's like how who I am as a person. I mean, like I know it's like a goofy blonde Hollywood person, but it's like for me it's like I don't know. I've always felt on the outside. I've always felt like I'm like a monster because I have dyslexia and everything like that. And it's like I want to be included, and I use films and I use horror to connect to people, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
loved this platform, and I'm probably going on and on. I don't know if you guys care,
No,
but
it's great.
I've loved this moment with you guys, and I know that like it's like I wasn't sure how long this was going to be, but it's I've enjoyed everything. I've enjoyed each episode, I've enjoyed each deep dive, and I've enjoyed like each pick that we've all together, done kind of like as a spooky family, and I'm going to miss this. Um but I hope that we stay connected, and yeah.
I mean, yeah,
I don't know.
I
This is all
remember
this is all like random from the heart, so I hope it makes sense later when I rewatch.
it totally
But
does.
Makes
Like
sense.
I love you guys.
I got so excited the first time we had you on. You were talking about like Forbidden Zone and Bloody Bridget, and I think it was towards the end of that when like I think one of us commented on like your Lon Chaney shirt, and I think I even said it on that episode because you just started going off in like the most charming, hilarious way, and I think I remember saying, "Oh, this is what I sound like. That's what it looks like. Neat."
Mhm.
And then it was pretty quickly afterwards that the three of us chatted and were like, so how do we get her back all the time to do something fun like this? So it
I
was
think it
purely
just came
selfish
down to
reasons.
we just needed to ask. But
Yeah.
yeah, this was you had just as much to do with this, Anastasia, as us as we did, because we when we met, it was like, oh, this is a kindred spirit,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And
I
this
missed that
iteration might be
show.
over, but oh, did you?
'Cause, yeah, I wasn't able to make it when Richard and Anastasia were on the show,
Oh, right.
but
I think
immediately after,
Yeah,
the guys told me like how great you had been and how enthusiastic you are about horror. And so after meeting you, I think we all collectively agreed like we gotta get this girl on the
yeah.
show.
I think it was like we were promoting like film festival, the Guignol Fest,
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yep.
with you guys. And so it was me and Rick, and then you guys were so kind to invite me on, and I had like a time stamp because I had to go to a meeting right after. And I think
Yeah.
that I actually talked with I don't remember if it was all three of you, but I feel like you were there, Denise, and I remember just like because usually I'm very like I let people talk and stuff like that, and so like maybe I'm not talking that much in my interviews, ironically, but I remember being like, no, I have to talk about Lon Chaney Sr. and I'm gonna get all the info out right now. And so because I had like a time limit, and so I remember that interview specifically because I was like just shooting out random information, and you guys are like, really, really? I'm like, yeah, like my whole life is about Lon Chaney Sr. Like, yes, but I have to go. And then like I was like worried about being rude because usually I like to like just let people talk because like afterwards, like people like to talk to me for a while. So it's fine. And then I end up getting asked back. And so this one I had a hard out, and so I felt so I felt very guilty. And then I remember randomly getting like an invite from you guys, and I'm like, are you kidding? Like, this is so fun. And then it was this for like, I don't know how much, like, how many has it been like 8, 9
We
months?
no, it's about
Almost.
a
Almost a
year.
year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's flo
Maybe just
Yeah.
shy.
it's flown by,
Your
and I
your your first solo interview on the show was on or around your birthday last
Yeah.
year.
that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm totally sad because I feel like we're just started to get like our footing, and that's like very like selfish of me. But I'm
It's
so
okay.
I can't wait to see what you guys are doing, and let's all stay friends. And I'm always here to talk about film, and literally this show and all the other podcasts that I've been doing since. I have to say, okay, so I have severe dyslexia, and you guys know like my problems. Like I like to know what we're like topics. I like to know what we're
Mhm.
dealing with because like I get brain farts, and I just like to be able to communicate. Like it's a problem with me, and I like to be able to talk and know what's going on. And so, gosh, where am I going with this?
The
I'm
other
gonna
podcasts.
You were gonna tell us how we're your favorite of the podcasts that you do.
you guys are my favorite, and I'm gonna miss this like family safe space. Does that make sense? Like I'm
It
gonna miss
does.
Yes, it
this.
does.
Though
Yeah.
I am like as a mom, I have to say I am happy to see where you guys flourish and where you guys go, but I'm going to miss you all in this version of us, if that makes sense.
I think
Yeah,
we all feel that way.
we do.
You know, the end of this show is bittersweet for all of us, and we've really enjoyed having you on. I think that like the podcast space is a really good space for you, Anastasia, and I hope that you keep doing it, even
Hmm.
if it even if it is without us. But I'm sure that we will find another outlet for our passion for film and horror. Uh,
Let's do it. Let's do it. You
Yeah,
know, I'm always
we're
game. I'm always game to like
we're
talk more.
definitely not done with you.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
that sounded more like a threat, but
It was supposed to be like a horror thing, like we're not done with you.
I mean, like
mission accomplished.
I would say don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, see?
Oh, excellent.
Cool.
Any other last words, gang?
No, other than like, yeah, the past year or so has been super fun. It's always been a highlight knowing when we were gonna have you on. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's always been a highlight, and I love reading your posts online too and stuff like that, and your
Yep.
opinions on film. It's always fun to read, or if I send you random notes on Instagram messages with just me laughing and being like, "Oh my God, that looks cool," and you're like, "It is cool."
Well,
I think
vice
the one where I'm like,
versa.
"They gave you a flamethrower."
Yeah, vice versa. You guys work so hard on this show, and there's a lot of stuff that you guys do behind the scenes that I'm not sure if everybody knows, but like you guys keep very organized, and I've just had such a wonderful time working with you guys, you know. Like it's been a super pleasure for me.
Yeah, same thing.
Likewise,
And
absolutely.
Hmm.
yeah, and we're definitely gonna work more in the future. We just don't know what that's gonna be yet.
Let's do it. Who cares?
Who cares? We'll just find a way to do it. Yeah,
Some
for
Yes,
sure.
that is
some
very true.
somebody knows how to like work Zoom, right? Other than me, because I don't know what I'm doing.
I
Yes.
do.
Totally.
I'll cancel the pro account when the show's over, but we can always bring it back for certain things.
Perfect.
I've got
Perfect.
one.
Huh?
I've got a pro account.
Why do you have
Nice.
that as your background?
Oh, it's not coming out right. It's the mission accomplished banner.
I can see
Oh,
it a
okay.
little bit.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, and it kind of
but
looks like
it's
it's my thumb over here.
Yeah.
I also
Which
didn't realize it was
all
going to automatically pop up. Sorry.
weirdly, it all ties this episode together because that was the butt of a joke in many Arrested Development episodes, and Arrested Development had Anaxanamun because she was Marta. Te amo,
Yes.
Marta.
That.
Yeah, that's
Oh
oh yeah, I
Marta.
forgot about that. Yeah,
Yep.
wow.
Patricia
Yep.
Velasquez. Yeah,
Yep. Hmm.
Hey, full circle.
Yeah.
nice. Well,
So I guess with that, I'm Rondaran.
I'm Binarita.
I'm Cable Hashitani.
And I don't think I'm Anastasia Elfman anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
Just kidding.
no. We'll see folks in a couple weeks, but Anastasia, we'll see you again soon. Don't worry. There's stuff going. Plus, apparently we have to go write this Mummy sequel script now, so
I think it's very important to the culture. Let's do it. Let's do
Yeah.
it
Yes,
right.
please do.
Let's do it
Right.
right.
Yes.
And
Nice.
you've
It'll
got a
happen.
line for Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz.
Oh, of course. Of course I do.
I've got Oded Fair on speed dial, so we got it all hooked
Perfect.
up.
You know,
We'll round them all up.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I only care about Benny. Let's bring him back. Let's bring him back.
We'll find a yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks
Thanks,
everybody,
gang.
and we'll chat soon.